Hey, everybody, welcome back to Angry on the Inside, a podcast for women who've been late diagnosed with ADHD. I'm Jessica from Alternative Path Coaching, your co-host and fellow late diagnosed woman.
And I'm Jeannine from Everyday Greatness Coaching. Today, we're going to be diving into why it's so important to be able to have vocabulary for ADHD symptoms and characteristics. It might not sound important, but it can be a game changer, not only for ourselves, but for the people in our lives.
Many of us have spent years thinking we're just too sensitive or too lazy. We're bad with time. We're a hot mess.
I used to beat myself up constantly for not remembering stuff or for starting 12 things and finishing none of them. I had no idea that those were ADHD traits. But once I had names for those things, I felt like I finally had a manual for how my brain works.
I think that's exactly right. Because if you want to understand something, you got to give it a name. That's why our topic is vocabulary today. And just because you know the name of something doesn't mean that you're going to understand it. But when it comes to an ADHD perspective and a late diagnosis, vocabulary really, I think it's almost the anchor to make sure that you don't float away after that diagnosis.
Definitely. And being able to name it also gives you language to explain it to others. Like today, when I texted you and said, hey, my brain's doing the ADHD thing this morning. Can we push back our recording? It's just an easier way to help explain to others kind of what's going on for you in the moment.
When I received that text message, I replied back with a thumbs up. But one of those things, and I know that a lot of people, they'll say, especially the newer generations, will say the thumbs up is the new middle finger. But I make sure to tell everyone that I speak with, my thumbs up is literally me smiling, doing a thumbs up. Like, that is freaking awesome. We have to explain some of our actions to people as well. Giving it a name and having that vocabulary kind of all ties together so that we start to understand each other and our community.
Now I'm freaking out about how many people I've given thumbs up to recently.
Exactly. Once you have that terminology, you can also figure out what actually helps. Instead of a generic advice like just make a to-do list or start finding stuff that works for you and your actual brain. It's kind of like unlocking your own toolkit. And it truly is, because I think we all unknowingly search for terminology to explain the phenomenons that we are experiencing. Once we get that diagnosis, it's no longer a case of those default answers of being lazy, of being a fuck up or a screw up or broken or any other thing. Suddenly we have reasoning and we have an explanation. So that terminology is so important and comes into play. As we go along, we have to remember we're not broken. We're not flaky. We've got ADHD. And we all need to take the time as a community to educate ourselves as to what that means and also to help educate others. And that doesn't mean that we have to be the poster children for all things proper and correct with ADHD, but it does mean we have to know enough to understand and explain to those people we love and feel comfortable with so that they actually understand.
A lot of times too, just having that name, at least I know for me, when I would read think about ADHD symptoms and they talked about, like, for example, time blindness, it was like, oh my gosh, I finally have words that explains my experience, because it's really hard to tell people that, I just can very much lose track of time. I completely underestimate how long things are going to take. I'm always late to things. But to have these words of time blindness to help me understand exactly what it is, why my brain is doing what it's doing, is just really helpful for myself. It's been helpful to at least sometimes try to explain to others. Labeling your ADHD traits, it's not about putting yourself in a box. It's actually just about finally understanding the box you've been in your whole life.
I couldn't agree more, Jeannine. Many of us grew up feeling like we were too much or not enough. We were too loud, sensitive, disorganized, not focused, not disciplined, not good enough at pretty much everything.
What we weren't told was that these things, all of these things, might actually be symptoms of ADHD. But without a label, we internalize them as personal failings. That leads to shame, burnout, and some really mean self-talk, which I know I can be really good at.
As can I. Holistic people don't understand when they say you're always your own worst critic. That is to the nth degree for anyone with ADHD. Where labeling comes into play is a case when we're naming something like time blindness, rejection sensitivity, it shifts the story. It goes from any negativity towards ourselves to, all right, my brain is processing time differently. And That's where we come into understanding and creating vocabulary around how ADHD shows up. Some choose to give it an actual name when they are reaching, say, a meltdown level, or when they need time to be alone. They need their quiet time. They need their shutdown time. They'll give it an actual name, a random name, right? Alan is in the building means I need to be left the frack alone. Everybody in my family is going to understand that that's what that means. Everybody's going to give grace and understanding and take a step back and be like, Mom's getting ready to blow. She's trying to let us all know that she is getting ready to blow, that there is this level of overstimulation that she cannot handle. And that is why we have a name for it. It's not to be funny and it's not a joke. It's very serious, but everyone in the room now knows, okay, Mom's dysregulated. Let's all take a step back and give her a minute. That little spot, that little space and time, that little word, that little inflection, that can save so much sadness and heartbreak and dysfunction and need for healing, because it's a boundary. When we're understanding these boundaries, when we are understanding the people we love who are neurodiverse and are trying to let us know what's going on, these are the things that save the arguments. They stop the explosions.
Which is why that labeling is so important. I mean, that shift is everything. It can really, in the moment, help those around you understand what's happening for you, what's going on for you. It also, just giving a name, it makes it less personal. Just being able to depersonalize it, that it's not a moral failing. It's not that you're not enough. It's not that you're undisciplined or all those other words that probably our self-talk likes to say to us, that it's your ADHD. That at that moment is how it's impacting you. Also those around you. Or could, if they don't get out of your way.
What happens once we actually start to use the terminology and the vocabulary that we gain with our ADHD diagnosis?
Well, several things. For example, we can communicate what's going on to our friends, to our coworkers, our families. For example, you can communicate what's going on. Instead of just saying, I'm sorry, I'm so flaky, you can explain to them what's going on for you, time blindness. And so that's why you can often forget when an appointment is or miscalculate how long something's going to take. Or if you're really, just disorganized, and letting them know that this can be a common symptom and that you are working on it too.
This is a new form of communication for you to use with not only your loved ones, but everyone who you run into in your life, everyone who you're interacting with, who play major roles in your day. Because I think with ADHD, we internalize. And even us saying that it is our fault, it is on us, something has gone wrong, well, obviously it's my fault. Like I said, it's a new form of communication. And I totally recognize so many of us here, all you do is talk about ADHD. That's all you talk about. That's like ADHD is like your whole life. It's your personality. Well, no shit. It's my brain. It's going to affect everything I do from waking up in the morning until I go to sleep at night. If it's going to affect every single thing I do, and if you're going to be in my life, it's going to affect you too. I want to take the time to help you understand, but I also am taking the time to heal myself and recognize in my own self that there's reasonings behind everything that has happened for me in my life. People do not recognize or understand the holistics in our lives or the others who are undiagnosed in our lives. They don't take the time, or maybe they just don't have the knowledge, and I'm being harsh, but the amount of money and relationships and stature and health that we lose so much. We don't even have a fighting chance. And we don't know because we end up being late diagnosed. We don't understand because no one around us understands. Many of us are a classic textbook case of ADHD. And you say it was different back then. It was different back then, but it's also a case that any doctor could have seen that so many late diagnosed people had ADHD, even if they just took a moment to actually look at the situation. But none of them did, and we all suffered for it. So yes, you are going to have to learn a few new terms, because I've learned a few new terms. And yes, ADHD is going to be my personality. But you know what? It was my personality before, and you were talking shit about it because I wasn't making the family reunion on time, and I didn't remember to bring the freaking snack box, and I didn't remember to send my kids to school with lunch money, and all these other things. You guys were already talking shit about it, so let's learn more about it, and maybe you could say something nice about me instead.
There you go. I liked what you just said. But labels can make a real difference and offer real life benefits, including just being able to get access to support for treatment. I think even building a sense of community when you can, start sharing your symptoms. When you finally have those words to describe your symptoms, your experiences, and you come across somebody else who's also experiences ADHD that way, it's actually an amazing feeling. I just remember that from our class of having people who've experienced the same thing as you and things that you didn't know was ADHD all your life. Maybe you just beat yourself up, made you feel like you were on the outside, right? You were so different. You didn't belong. Then someone comes along and they're like, oh my God, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's just such a good feeling to have that support and that understanding from another person. I think that's another really good reason to become familiar with these terms, to educate ourselves and to learn about them. We also talked about just the treatment. Maybe you need medication. Maybe you need counseling. When you know what you're trying to work on, what do you want your medication to help you achieve? Is it that you're going to be more focused, that you're going to have less TVs playing in your head? Because that's at least for me. I don't have 20 TVs in my head anymore. I just have 2 on a really good day, but no longer the 20. We've talked about how to use this new knowledge with our friends and our family. I think being able to have the term for it, being able to explain it, explain your experience, explain that symptom. It also gives those around you a chance to learn more, to understand you more, and gives you a chance to ask for the support. What is it that you really need? You don't need them to buy you a new planner, a new organizer. Or maybe it's you want them to provide you with some reminders. Maybe they can be your accountability partner. It's just that you have ways to being able to explain to them what is you're experiencing and what's going to help support you, what's going to help you manage your symptoms better.
Being able to put a name on it not only brings understanding and acceptance, it can provide relief from self-blame and negative self-perception because it offers an explanation for previously unexplained challenges.
Yeah. Your brain works differently. And this is how it's showing up for you today. It's not a failing. It's not that you have a lack of morals or lack of discipline or you're not trying hard enough or all that other stuff. That there is a neurological brain-based reason for what's going on for you and what you are experiencing. Being able to remove yourself. It's not a judgment of you. It's not a failing of you. It's just your brain's working differently.
When it comes down to it, though labeling does have a bad connotation, it's not about putting limitations on yourself. It's about reclaiming your narrative. It's about saying, this is what's going on, and now I have the language to understand it, to manage it, and even laugh about it sometimes.
If someone tries to use these labels against you, I think that's on them. You get to choose how you show up and what support you need.
If someone's using an ADHD label against you, it's because they don't understand it. It's their own bigoted, retroactive, outdated opinions. I am not ashamed for the fact that I am an ADHD woman by any means. I am saddened by our population as a whole that we are now just coming into a space where we recognize these things in women and where we're trying to provide support for this community. But I am not ashamed in any way for the fact that I have an ADHD diagnosis.
I'm not ashamed of it. I just wish I didn't have it. How about that?
That's totally okay. But I'm more saying that we all worry about the label. I know we all do. It's a hot topic. Label is just as much a catch-all as saying, oh, it's my ADHD, right? We're not trying to define the absolute 100% of each individual by a label. And that's the thing. I think that's where we all get hung up. We are all sitting in the middle of a spectrum disorder. Yeah. We are all different and we are all the same. Some of us are too caught up in the fact that We want to be different than everyone else because we've spent so many years as having that as our only identity. It's okay to be like others. It's okay to have camaraderie with others. It's okay to share some traits and not others. It's challenging. Not everything is a superpower. This is not all amazing. If someone's trying to shame you for your label, put you down for being ADHD, to put you down for that label, they're uneducated.
Most people's judgment comes from a insecurity on their part. They're feeling
True.
bad about themselves, then they judge you. The label's not about putting you in a box. It's about being able to finally understand that box you've been in your whole life.
All right, friends. That's it for today's episode. If it hits home for you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to leave a review. If you're loving the show, it helps more ADHD women find us and feel a little less alone.
Till next time, label it, own it, and keep and see. I'm not going to say that one. That's stupid. I don't like being your, I don't know. We need a line. We need a catch line.
How about you can say, until next time, smooches. Come on, give it a try. Give it a try. No, come on. So fun to say.
What do I say? Until next time, smooches. That I just can't even say that word. Anyway.
You just said it. You just totally said it.